On June 21st, 1991, Sega was cornered. Nintendo had the throne, the mascot, the name, the market. Sega only had two things: a nearly 2-year-old floundering console and a dream. It was the classic David vs. Goliath tale, except David only had an empty, raggedy slingshot. But he was about to find his stone. On June 22nd, a blue, spiraling, prickly blur seemingly fell from the heavens, ready to be slung upon the brow of Bowser himself. He had indigo quills, fire engine red sneaks, and attitude for days. Sonic the Hedgehog didn't just enter gaming, he changed the scene forever. Fast, loud, brash, cocky, everything the plumber wasn't. And suddenly, this underhog had fangs. For service games, it was exactly the shift to the culture they needed. So follow me. Through the proverbial ring in the sky as we break down the development, nuts and bolts, legacy, and just about everything in between of this industry-changing classic. This slightly confused, fascinating classic. The original Sonic the Hedgehog. And what did it mean to a little 6-year-old Zishin as the very first game I could ever call my own? Welcome to another review. Today, it's all about the blue blur Sonic the Hedgehog. Oh, and this episode is not for resale. Don't you dare even try it. Lego. When exiting the 80s and into the early 90s, Sega had become desperate for something, anything, to storm the ramparts of the castle that Mario built. While Altered Beast was a fine enough packing game for their semi-new Sega Genesis, Sega Mega Drive across the pond, they clearly needed a big hit to wrest away some of the coveted market share that the Big N had garnered for far too long. Enter programming wizard Yuji Naka. Now, Naka had just finished developing a groundbreaking algorithm that allowed sprites to move smoothly along curved surfaces. Perfect for, loops and hills and a super fast and charming platformer. Alongside Naoto Oshima as lead artist and Hirokazu Yasuhara in the design role, an internal contest led them to the next evolution of video gaming, showcasing what would later be affectionately known as blast processing. The team had everything they needed to perfectly hypothesize the answer to the question that was the heavy-set pipe slider. Mamma mia. The creation of Sonic was fueled by the desire to innovate as well as to dominate. Originally, the team had considered a rabbit character that could grab objects with its ears, but that idea proved too complex for the hardware for now. So, they spun around to an animal that could turn itself into a ball, the titular hedgehog. Now, Oshima's spiky blue hedgehog design, cheekily codenamed Mr. Needlemouse while in development, was that pivot. Sonic's look and personality were deliberately designed to appeal to the 1990s Bart Simpson kid. Lots of swag, bravado, and eat my shorts type of hubris. His blue color, originally teal, was chosen to match Sega's logo and to contrast Mario on some real Bloods and Crips shit. His red and white shoes were inspired by Michael Jackson's Bad album cover. His body and head were inspired in part by Mickey Mouse and Felix the Cat, respectively. And his confidence was modeled after then President Bill Clinton's can-do spirit. Now, I suppose that makes the poorly conceived idea for him to have a Nebraskan human girlfriend named Madonna make a little bit more sense. And even our buddy Dr. Robotnik, aka Eggman, sprang from a rejected character design of Oshima's. Legend has it he was partly inspired by Teddy Roosevelt himself. It's pretty wild. The team went on to name themselves Sonic Team as the project got underway. Now, this crew here was explicitly fans of Super Mario Bros., but felt that they needed something faster. So production on Sonic began in April of 1990 and lasted roughly 14 months. Naka had shown off his coding chops within hits like Phantasy Star 1 and Sega's port of Ghouls and Ghosts, so he was raring to push the hardware to its limits. When Sega unveiled Sonic at the 1990 Tokyo Toy Show, it was still super early on, with Sonic simply running on a wavy track. But the concept blew away crowds. With 7 core members, 2 programmers, 3 designers, and 2 sound engineers, Sonic Team worked nearly 19 hours a day for months to get this shit together. And we think crunch is new. Now, because of Sonic's speed, many issues would arise. Sonic would fall through geometry. Maps had to be much larger to account for the distance traveled. They even had disagreements on just how fast them top miles per hour should actually be. The now iconic Green Hill Zone took Yuji Naka about 8 months to perfect. And boy, does it show. Because needless to say, their diligence paid off. When this shit dropped in June of 1991 stateside, it was a statement. Sega started packing the game in with consoles starting in the 1991 holiday season after yeeting the grave-risen, leotard-wearing heroes of Altered Beast unceremoniously to the curb.
Welcome to your doom.
Indeed. Now, the move was huge for the company and a real, true turning point. Owing a large part to Sonic's appeal, the Genesis actually outsold the SNES 2-1 in late 1991, and at one point grabbed nearly 2/3, 66.666666 repeating percent of the 16-bit market share. It was the first time since the mid-80s that anyone even hoped to rival Nintendo's console supremacy. It cannot be understated how massive of an achievement this really was, and Sonic Team was largely to thank for it. For the first time in history, Sega did what Nintendo didn't. That's how that went, yeah? Sorry, it was a long time ago. Maybe one of y'all can correct me. But yeah, the rest, as they say, is history. 15 million copies later, and Sonic has become a megastar, a pop culture icon. Multiple TV shows, critical praise, and a piece of the industry that can seemingly never die at this point. Sonic 1 was immeasurably important to Sega. But how does it feel to play now? Now look, guys, overall, y'all know I'm not a super nostalgic guy, but seeing the opening of Sonic sent me right back to my old bedroom in Ohio. Real shit. At its core, Sonic the Hedgehog is a 2D side-scrolling platformer, not unlike many that came before it, including that mustachioed Italian toilet tender. But what set it apart immediately was that speed. My lord, the speed. Well, the speed in theory. Sonic 1 was a first in many ways, and while it comes flying out of the gate, it does stumble on at least a few occasions throughout its roughly 2 to 3 hour runtime. Now, I'm not gonna bore y'all explaining Sonic
the fucking Hedgehog
to you. You run, you jump, you have no spin dash, which is absolutely crazy. It's easy to forget just how useful that is until you go back and play a game without it. Oof. But yeah, no life bar. You pick up rings that provide both a high score at the end of the act and function as your health, too. When you're hit, you enter a brief state of invincibility and can run around and recover rings. Now, that's easier said than done, though, as once you have few rings, getting back even one can be really, really tenuous. There are special stages you enter at the end of each of the first 2 acts in the zone, which are really something. They aren't nearly as iconic as some of the later games, but, you know, they work just fine. You rotate each level clockwise and counterclockwise, speed up or slow down the stage with special bumpers, and ultimately reach the Chaos Emerald. Or, you know, hit the goal within moments of being dropped in, like I did most of the time. These aren't particularly fun and can feel like you're flying blind, but with so many acts in this game and only 6 emeralds to get this time around, you have time to get familiar. Speaking of acts, let's talk about the real star of any great platformer, the stages. Alright, so if you ask me to think of the single most iconic level in a game, the most immediately identifiable, from its look to its feel to its intro of gameplay elements to its music, Green Hill Zone would be on a very, very short list. I mean, like the shortest list. Like, I can't actually think of a level that would be higher on that list. Do you think it's the most legendary opening level in a video game? Let me know down below what you think is, if not Green Hill Zone. We can fight it out. Anyway, Green Hill Zone, right? So the black screen appears with the stage name, elements sliding in from off screen in all directions, all as you hear that ascending arpeggio that lands into one of the most well-known melodic lines in all of games. Then bam! The clear blue sky dotted with clouds above, surrounded by flowers that spring up and down in their place, palm trees swaying in the breeze as the checkerboarded plains whiz by underfoot. Sonic gathers speed, leaping into the air, ricocheting his spike-covered carapace against various robotic badniks, releasing the cute little woodland creatures trapped inside, turning into a blue blaze at Mach speed with a buzzsaw-like sound dusting up in his wake. From bridges to waterfalls to parallax topography that provides an almost 3-dimensional depth that's woefully uncommon in the era, man, I can close my eyes and be right there, right now. Even before I replayed this game via Sonic Origins on my PS5, I was right the hell there. Green Hill Zone personifies what video games are. It's fun, it's interactive as hell, it rewards good gameplay and decision making, it has a unique style and identity, and the music is bonkers. Act 2 continues to show you new methods and tools of movement, hidden secrets, loop-de-loops, and pure joy. And then there's Act 3. Now, I remember Act 3. Surely, of course, but I think this is where the game starts to show some of the growing pains that rear their ugly mugs on a few occasions throughout Sonic 1. The opening boss is simple and gets you acclimated to the way you fight Robotnik every level. No big deal. You might get hit once or twice, but there's also a good chance that you don't get hit at all. You free a giant vat of creatures, and then it's on to the next zone. And buddy, prepare for the
Whiplash.
If Green Hill is the pinnacle of the medium, Marble Zone lives comfortably in its averageness. The open fields and blistering speed comes to a screeching halt in a way that reminds you just how new this gameplay style really was. You could tell these guys were fans of Mario and other traditional platformers because Marble splits the difference in a way that is really not that satisfactory to either camp. There's a lot of waiting around in Marble Zone. Whether it's lava, fireballs coming up and back into their fiery pit, oh how Mario of you, or slow-moving blocks that you stand on doing absolutely nothing while you wait for lava geysers to send you to higher heights. You will be longing for that free movement. Also, guys, I gotta say it, 3X is just too damn long. There's a reason that almost all of the subsequent games have only 2. By the final act of a zone, you're thinking, okay, I get it. There just aren't enough gimmicks that are enjoyable in most of these stages to warrant a full 3 acts. Marble Zone culminates with a relatively humdrum boss, and we move on to one of the better zones with one of my favorite tracks in all of gaming. Now, Spring Yard Zone is an interesting hybrid of its first 2 levels. It really does split the difference between fast and methodical. Taking place in a nighttime city with casino-like bumpers and springs, you spend a lot of time going fast, but also face some crazy spike traps and elevators that require you to slow down and chill. It definitely introduces the verticality and secret areas the 2D series is most well known for, and foreshadows many of the casino-themed stages to come. That was the first level that reminded me that this game is pretty fucking mean-spirited. It encourages you to go fast, to open up and go running without a care in the world, only to lead you on to a bottomless pit or a pile of spikes that kill you instantly. It has this interesting mixture of old school methodology in its level design and desire for you to just have to replay it and figure out the game, and a breakneck, easy breezy pacing that it wants you to feel the wind in your quills with. 1991. It was a different time. Now, Springyard's boss is pretty annoying. If you make the mistake of taking out your middle blocks, you find yourself wanting for space, working hard not to die. If you stay to the outsides and work your way in, you'll be all right. All right, guys, the Labyrinth Zone. I really have not been doing well with water levels on this channel, huh? Fuck this level. This is what childhood nightmares are made of. Waiting on bubbles and hearing the countdown music is seriously peak collective millennial trauma. Only second place to like the Final Destination logs. I still can't get behind logging trucks to this day. But yeah, this is where the game starts to get really, really mean. The water physics in this game are not great. Let's just say it. Maybe it's because the fact that I was playing the Sonic Origins version, but my God, man, I could not stay alive replaying this. 3 levels of sunken hell. You have enemies that seem uniquely positioned to ruin your day. A literal labyrinthian maze at times. I saw my timer climbing higher and higher than it did in really any other zone. And all of this culminates with one of the worst, most asinine boss fights ever. Chasing Robotnik vertically through water, avoiding every obstacle known to man, or hedgehog. It really tests your patience with the physics of entering and exiting water. Yeah, Labyrinth Zone has to be my least favorite Sonic level of all time. And oh boy, I wish we were done with it forever. But yeah, we'll come back to that. Hallelujah though, Starlight Zone shows up almost like a mea culpa for the bullshit Sonic team just put you through. A beautiful cityscape with loops, gentle slopes, and seesaws that fling Sonic upward. It's calming, it's fast, it has such a beautiful bop of a tune. I mean, thank the Lord for Starlight Zone. One of my least favorite zones to one of my favorite, it balances the challenge as well as your ability to just flow with it. This level does verticality so well, and I have a little bit of a theory that maybe they did this level last because it feels really close to like a Sonic 2 level. Anyway, an easy boss allows you to just enjoy yourself all over again. Oh boy, it don't last for long because the final zone, Scrap Brain, is really where I said, this game hates me, man. It truly hates me. There are so many opportunities to fall into pits. So many mean-ass enemy placements, environmental hazards, crushing hazards, bottomless pits. Scrap Brain can kiss my ass for real. And I promise you, the final act is basically Labyrinth Zone Act 4. Bro, what?
This is #1 bullshit.
Y'all actually fucking hate me, huh? This is literally the worst thing you can imagine while playing this game. What if I had to go back to Labyrinth Zone, that shitty water level? And there it is, just, I swear, I almost quit right here, but I had to do this for not only y'all, but for a podcast ep with my boy Pat over at Retro Blast. So I trudged on. Luckily, the final boss is so cheesable that you'll make it through without much effort once you get him figured out. Upon Eggy's final defeat, all that's left is to run to the right and watch Robotnik crash and burn. A sick-ass medley will play, and that's it. Sonic 1 is done. 6 zones later, I really did enjoy my time replaying such a formative game in my life. And as a kid, this was the only game I had from my 6th birthday until that following Christmas in 1992. So I was reminded quickly of all the nooks and crannies of this game. But what I had forgotten is just how slow it can feel at times. For a game predicated on adrenaline pumping speed, it has a bit of an identity crisis with its somewhat awkward platforming, cringe-worthy underwater segments, and snail-paced passages that ask you to slow down just as much as they ask you to go fast. The best levels marry the two concepts together joyfully. Green Hill and Starlight are my top two, with Spring Yard not far behind, and is at its absolute worst when it requires you to jump through the ocean over spiky dickheads that toss their urchins at you one painful projectile at a time. Yes, this game was made to be replayed, and I had to put myself back into that mental headspace of the 90s. Once I did, I had a blast, even when it was exceedingly frustrating. You take your lumps, learn your lessons, and try again. Dust yourself off and try again. Word to Aaliyah. So while many of the design snafus of 2D Sonic were later rectified in classics like Sonic 2, 3, and Knuckles, and even the more recent Mania, this game taught 6-year-old me what games could be. Challenging, exciting, pure joy, and really, really tough. And that was always enough to keep me pressing start yet again. Sometimes start with an up, down, left, right, hold A before it, because, you want to skip some of them bullshit levels. But I press start anyway. Now let's be real. Sonic 1's story is about as thin as a sheet of tracing paper. You boot it up and there is Sonic, wagging his finger. No cutscene montage, no text crawl, no dramatic attract screen lore dump. Just Sega yelling at you like it paid for the whole sound chip. It wasn't about to let that shit go to waste. But if you were one of them ones who actually read instruction manuals back in the day, you'd find that there is technically a plot buried under some delightfully 90s localization fluff. The gist is simple. Dr. Ivo Eggman Robotnik is kidnapping the innocent animals of South Island and turning them into robotic minions to help him find the half-dozen Chaos Emeralds. Now, why would this man want to do this, you ask? If I were to guess, probably all that doctoral debt in whatever the fuck he studied while not practicing it is my wager. But in actuality, it's because he's evil, bald, and rotund. Can you blame him for being so angry? Sonic, being the world's fastest and spikiest woodland critter, isn't having it. So he sets off solo. There's no Tails, no Knuckles, just pure chili dog fueled vengeance to stop the doc, free his furry friends, and collect those shiny rocks before Eggman does. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Sonic's personality was more inferred than shown here. Cool, cocky, and impatient if you dared to stop moving for 5 seconds. You can tell the US version from the Japanese version very easily as well. The Bart effect was a huge reason Sonic looked so mean to us. This is the kind of plot that politely steps aside and lets the gameplay do all the talking, which for 1991 was part of the charm. So yeah, no deep lore here, no echidna tribal warfare or multiversal chaos gods. You get a blue hedgehog, an evil egg-shaped fella, and a whole lot of springs, so let's go ahead and get into more interesting topics, shall we? Let's talk about the look of this game, cause whew, does it still hold up? I'll never forget how I felt the first time I loaded up Sonic the Hedgehog. Imagine, it's 1992, September, and you're just a little gamer. You rip open that X-Men wrapping paper, freak the hell out, or heck is what you'd probably say at this age, then sit anxiously while you watch your mom set up the console with the coax cables, pop in that brand new cart, and there he is. At the time, Sonic the Hedgehog was flexing on the whole Genesis library. There really wasn't anything like this in 1992 when I got it, let alone 1991. Green Hill Zone alone is basically Sega putting the whole world on notice. Look at these parallax layers, Mario. Bright, candy-colored palettes, detailed backgrounds, checkerboarded dirt. Who's doing it like that? and everything moves so fast, even when the going gets tough. I probably need to hit Control F for how many times I say the word iconic in this script. I'm starting to sound like a goddamn Kardashian.
Because it's iconic. And I love to do iconic shit.
But for real, Sonic's sprite is iconic, simple enough to be readable at high speeds, but still full of personality. He taps his foot when you idle, he flashes smug grins, and that rolling pose, pure dope. Robotnik, on the other hand, looks like a pissed off Humpty Dumpty with a mustache and a hovercraft fetish. Also perfect. Now your enemy and environmental animations are smooth, though the enemy design is a little repetitive. Some zones look great, but don't change much as you go along. The color theory does work hard though. Each zone has its own mood, from the cool hues of Starlight to the lava-soaked yellows, reds, and grays of Marble. And yeah, it's not pushing the absolute limits like some late-gen Genesis games, but for an early title like this, Sonic 1 looks clean. It had style, some legendary vibes, and had enough polish to make Sega's blast processing slogan feel less like BS marketing and more like a prophetic tone. Reading from the scripture of Sonic. For as good as Sonic looked though, there's one thing that stands out in my head more than anything when I think about this game here. That's the music. So let's get right into that. When this shit dropped, the music felt like a revelation. I mean, yeah, the game's good. It looks good, plays good, all that. But bro, the music, now that is where it stepped into its next level status. Masato Nakamura, bassist and songwriter for Dreams Come True, a Japanese pop band founded in the late 80s, handled this soundtrack. Now, Nakamura was a legit pop artist at the time and had never scored a game before. He was juggling Sonic and recording his band's second album at once, so salute to him. You're a madman, Masato. He literally switched back and forth between the projects in the studio, and both were incredibly well received. But we're here to only talk about one of them. Sega approached him because they wanted a high-quality, melodic score to elevate the game, and I'd say he did just that. With flying colors, probably a lot of blue, red, and white colors.
If I can see a red color, so my music's gonna be like a volcano stuff, or if I can see Iceland, I wanted to create a kind of icy music.
The Sega's Yamaha YM2612 chip was very distinct and only gave him 4 channels to work with for music, sometimes less when sound effects kicked in. As he recalled,
Only 4 sounds could play at once. If the bass drum was playing, you had to structure the song using just 2 chord notes and 1 melody note.
that means everything had to count. You had to be creative. No padding, no filler, no messing around. The result is tight, melodic, and sharp in a way that holds up 30 plus years later. Nakamura approached this with a poppy movie score-like sensibility. Strong melodies that you can hum, as well as dramatic music for more tense moments. And it was his desire to have a distinct feeling and vibe for each zone that has left this soundtrack as a beacon of what is possible with so little. Now, it's no exaggeration to say that Green Hill Zone is probably the first song that 90% of us think of when we think of Sonic the Hedgehog. The track kicks things off with a melody that's instantly sticky. The bass line isn't just holding a singular groove. It's running alongside the lead, pushing everything forward. You hear the Michael Jackson influence, the J-poppy aesthetic, and somehow it all works brilliantly through that gritty FM synth. It's perfect. Nothing else to be said. Then Marble Zone slows it down and leans into that tension. The rhythm swings hard. This is funky, a little dramatic, but still melodic. It fits the slower pace of the stage, even if the level itself is a bit of a drag. Spring Yard is pure New Jack swing. I mean, the Bobby Brown New Edition influence is undeniable. It's not even subtle here. You could lay a Bobby verse over it, and I don't think anyone would blink an eye. hits, the melody dances, and it makes the stage feel just so cool. When I sat down and talked to Pat over at Retro Blast Podcast recently, he asked me if this game had an influence on my music and my desire to make it. It absolutely did, and Spring Yard Zone stands as one of my favorite tracks, not just from Sonic, but of all time. Hell, I did a rendition on my very first album for the channel, Plug and Play, titled Spring Yard's Own. Make sure you go check that out, and our nearly 2.5-hour conversation on Sonic 1 if you just can't get enough of me talking about the Blue Blur himself. Link will be in the description down below. So honestly, Spring Yard is the peak of the soundtrack for me, and I find myself humming it often, even to this day. Now, Labyrinth Zone is straight up disrespectful. You're drowning, dodging spears, hearing that nightmarish countdown jingle, and the music's just casually vibing like you're in some bubbly underwater joyride. It actually is quite the vibe though. I love the plucky staccato hits that eventually layers with a soaring harmonic synth line. It's bright, peppy, and it's in a stage designed to break your spirit. Now that disconnect was intentional. Nakamura wanted to keep the energy up, so you didn't just shut the game off. Fair. Starlight Zone, man, yeah, it is smooth. Dreamy melody with a disco-adjacent rhythm that holds the 4 on the floor feeling in the kick alongside a consistent triplet hi-hat. Beautiful bass line, oh my goodness. This is Sonic in cruise mode, finally getting to stretch out after the misery of Labyrinth. I just love that final synth line that leads into the run back. Brilliant. It feels modern even today. Like you could drop this into a chill hop playlist and no one would question it at all. Scrap Brain flips the table a bit. No warmth, no groove. It's just like cold, industrial madness. More rhythm than melody, especially in the first phase, and it doesn't exactly care how you feel about it. Now, I used to not really like this zone's music, but upon replaying it now, I actually sort of mess with it. There are 2 distinct phases, and the first part has a truly panic-inducing quality. But after a bit of a drum and bass fill, it opens up to a much groovier synth line and counter melody as the bass continues to drive a super dope rhythm. Almost a tale of 2 beats. And honestly, the track perfectly matches the vibe. It's claustrophobic, trap-filled, and hostile. I still hate Scrap Brain as a zone, but you know, the music ain't half bad. Then you have the boss theme, which has an almost military-esque vibe to it with rolling snares, big percussive hits, and a menacing bass sound that I never really noticed as a kid because, well, we didn't have a TV that could replicate that sound. It lets you know shit is about to go down. Outside of the main themes, even the little touches land here. You got the ring chime, the checkpoint ping, the drowning countdown. Oof, trauma in 5 notes. And that iconic Sega at startup was worth every meg they took up. Thrown in because Yuji Naka wouldn't take no for an answer, he freed up cartridge space after scrapping a sound test. Big brain move right there. It ended up becoming not only iconic, but Sega's entire brand signature, which they still utilize in many forms over 30 years later. I also love that medley that plays during the staff roll. It cleverly combines all of the tunes. It's really impressive how they resequenced them considering how limited the Sega Genesis sound channels left them. I ran across a super charming anecdote in my research that shows how proud Nakamura was of the music. Once the game was done, he wanted to hear all the tracks in context, but wasn't very good at the game. So he actually requested the devs give him a special invincibility cheat. He laughs that he, quote, could barely clear the first stage, so he had Miwa Yoshida, the vocalist of Dreams Come True, beat the game for him while he listened to his music in each level. It's a pretty funny image when you think about it. The composer struggling with his own game's difficulty, but it also shows you how novel game music was back then. He treated the whole thing like a new kind of album. I'd say in the end, Sonic 1's music has become just as legendary as the game itself. Actually, nah, I'd say it's even more so. It's frequently cited among the best video game soundtracks of all time, and it established a super high bar for the series that continues a strong lineage. I mean, Sonic music is almost always fire. For my part, revisiting the game via Sonic Origins, I was bopping my head to every track. The Yamaha chip's synthy tones are pure nostalgia bait and still slap today. Sonic's soundtrack hasn't aged a moment in time. It's 16-bit gold, ring-shaped gold. And to show homage to this brilliant OST myself, I created a track titled Mr. Needlemouse. You'll probably, immediately recognize this one. Lego. Now, if you enjoyed that one, leave a Defeat Mario down in the comments and I'll make sure to get it up on my Bandcamp. And remember, y'all, members at all levels get all songs I release as Lucy's for free. So if you'd like a high fidelity version of this song in your inbox, consider supporting the channel by becoming a member. And you too can jam out with our buddy, Mr. Needlemouse. Now back to the show. So with all that other shit out of the way, how has Sonic the Hedgehog held up? Surprisingly well, and also kinda not. On one hand, it's clearly a product of its time. Rough around the edges, occasionally exceedingly cruel in its level design, slower than people will remember. Like, seriously. It's more careful platform over lava than zoom through loops at the speed of sound. Green Hill Zone tricks you into thinking the whole game's a roller coaster, then Marble Zone shows up like, nah. Now it's time to push blocks and wait for a literal hot minute on slow-moving lava. The lack of a spin dash is also bonkers in retrospect. I get that they either hadn't come up with it yet or maybe couldn't implement it in time, but sheesh. Having to manually build up momentum by backtracking and praying to the physics engine gods was something else. That's some early 90s masochism for real. And don't get me started on the boss fights. Eggman shows up with that same rinky-dinky ass hovercraft over and over again, just with a new, mildly engaging gimmick duct taped on. And somehow it still works. Kinda. You keep hearing me say kinda, yeah? There's a reason, and it's a bit of a mess, to be quite frank. But despite all that, Sonic 1's charm is bulletproof. It oozes personality. The art direction is still instantly recognizable. The soundtrack is, yes, I'll say the word again, iconic. The collect them all structure with the Chaos Emeralds laid the groundwork for basically every game that followed, even if here it's more hope you stumble into the special stage than a coherent system that gives you any true reward besides a single screen at the end. What it lacks in modern finesse and sensibilities, it makes up for in legacy. This was the blueprint. This was Sega declaring war on Mario, storming the castle door, and actually winning the first few battles. Without Sonic 1, we don't get the legendary Sonic 2 or the GOAT tier Sonic 3 and Knuckles or modern amazing games like Sonic Mania. It was bold, it was different, and it was just fast enough to feel revolutionary, even when it wasn't really all that fast. 6-year-old me had no choice but to adore it. Tolerated shortcomings. I mean, it was the only game we had for like a whole quarter. But beyond being forced to love it, I also just love it. Even still, it's frustrating, it's familiar, and it's fun in that old school, vaguely mean-spirited way. Like a tough teacher you sort of hated, but years later you realize they really did in fact teach you something. Hard but important lessons. That's Sonic 1. Damn, is Sonic 1 really Mrs. Minnie? Yo, that's crazy. Retrospect truly is a gift, and getting to play your very first video game over 30 years later is as well. I hope you're doing all right, Miss Minnie. Thanks for watching. Have you played Sonic 1 recently? Where does it rank in your favorite Sonic games, and do you think it holds up today? Before you go, check out this video about another classic Sega game with some fire-ass music. And like if you like, subscribe if you love, and consider becoming a member if you down for the Zishin. I'll see y'all on the flip side. Don't go spinning off a cliff before then, all right? Peace.